When you're riding and doing Heelside jumps, the focus is mostly on the approach and your edge technique. Coaches and instruction have stressed the importance of edge technique for years, but I feel that the edge out and setup have been overlooked. What most riders don't realize is that the edge out has a direct effect on the edge inwards towards the wake. If you are edging out badly and your setup sequence is wrong, your approach edge can be greatly altered, resulting in diminished pop or an out of control jump. In this video, I'm going to go over the perfect setup sequence for Heelside jumps and show you how important your edge out can be so you can jump the wakes higher and more consistently. First, let's go over a couple common ways that riders edge out without realizing they are messing up their approach edge. The first is a multiple edge out. This is an edge out where the rider edges more than once. They edge a bit, don't like where they're at, so they edge again, and then they repeat until they feel they're out far enough. This bad rhythm or swing on the way out creates a bad edge in. It is related to momentum, and edging off and on as you swing out doesn't create a lot of outward momentum, so then you don't have good momentum on the way in either, and you have to work hard to produce the approach, which usually results in a sharp turn. The second type of bad edge out is a long, slow edge out and hold. This is where the rider edges out slowly, but for a long time, and then they hold their out edge on their toes until they are ready to edge inward. When you edge out slow and long like this, you don't build up a good swing outward, which again has to do with momentum. There is no momentum on the way out, so there will be less momentum on the way in. Hanging on the outside or out edge also forces the rider to turn very sharply to start the approach. If the start of the edge is sharp, then the rider is sure to go flat at the wake instead of edging through the top of the wake. What I recommend, instead of the first two problems, is starting at the wake in the trough and actually drifting up the face of the wake a bit so you can fall back down the face as you start your edge out. This helps you create more outward momentum. Then, on the way out, you should only edge once, and make sure the edge out is more aggressive than the edge you plan on using on the way in to ensure that you build good momentum. That way you'll have good momentum on the way in as well. If you edge twice on the way out, go back to the wake and start over. One swing out, one swing in. Okay, now that we have the edge out dialed, let's talk about the setup before the approach. The most common mistake is messing up the time at which you should sit down to get into the seated edging position. The seated edging position is the best position for Heelside wake jumps, and it enables you to push hard off the top of the wake. But if you sit at the wrong time, you can mess up your edge in towards the wake. The most common problem occurs when a rider coasts tall in between the edge out and then sits after initiating the edge in. Since your position is tall, you have a lot of leverage or high leverage on the rope and board, and this starts the edge abrupt and too aggressive. Then as you sit after starting the edge, you lose this leverage and your edge decreases, which makes your edge backwards technique-wise. It goes from hard to soft or from hard to flat whether you like it or not because the physics involved. You should sit as soon as you start the coast between the edge out and in, not after the coast or at the start of the turn. You hold this seated position for the rest of the coast out, through the start of the edge, and the entire approach, which allows your edge to build on a constant position without changing leverage during the edge. You can then accelerate as you get closer and stand tall through the wake, which all produces better, more controlled pop. Let's take one last look at the proper setup so you can engrave this into your riding. Start at the wake in the trough on the outside. Drift up the wake a bit to use the hill as a starting ramp to build speed more easily on the way out. Make one long aggressive edge out. If you edge twice or bobble on the way out, go back and start over. As soon as you finish the edge out, come off edge quickly to flat to start your coast. At the start of your coast, get into the seated position. Finish the coast in the seated position. Look back towards the wake and allow the boat's natural swing to start your slow edge in. Remain in the same seated position as you turn and swing into the wake. Hold the position as you build your edge and then stand tall through the wake to pop. This simple but specific setup is the key to consistency. If you do it the same every time, I guarantee your jumps will improve in height and control. Stay tuned to a follow-up video that focuses more on troubleshooting the approach edge. See you next time.